This is a Google Pixel 9 Pro XL in Porcelain and an Obsidian, and I've been using these phones for the last 48 hours. So we're going to unbox them and then I'm going to give you my first impressions, starting with Porcelain. Porcelain is basically Google's fancy way of saying white. So the first thing you'll notice is this all new packaging. Google is calling it their 100% plastic-free packaging. And you can really see the effort they made to use recycled materials. It looks very different to the iPhone 15 Pro and Samsung S24 Ultra packaging, and drastically different from their older packaging. Inside the box, we get the phone, which we're going to put aside for now. We get a USB Type-C to Type-C cable, some literature, and a SIM eject tool. It's pretty boring, but very standard. And by the way, the only difference with the Obsidian packaging is the black sleeve. Everything else in the packaging is exactly the same. Now onto the phones. Like, wow. Just wow. This Porcelain phone looks like a piece of jewelry. The frosted glass combined with the glossy steel, the flat edges, and the new camera bar had me at a loss for words. Google nailed it with the hardware. The Obsidian phone looks super clean and stealth, with its matte black everything look, including the side rails. The frosted glass in the Obsidian also has a slightly different texture than the Porcelain. I was torn on which one of these to choose, but I went with the Porcelain. Let me know in the comments which color you choose. Now, what I really like is that the glossy side rails barely show any fingerprints. I mean, these might add up over time, but what's also interesting is that the side rails are just ever so slightly grippy, which I haven't really seen before. And the screen is completely flat, which I'm a huge fan of because you can then be practical and install a tempered glass screen protector. Also, the other good thing about the design is that it doesn't rock on a table like most flagships. The build quality feels incredible. Like, this is a huge step up for Pixel hardware. One thing I noticed is that it feels very dense in the hand, and because of that, it feels a little bit heavy. Like, even though on paper it's lighter than the S24 Ultra, for some reason it feels heavier. So that's just something to keep in mind. So everyone's been comparing the design to the iPhone 15 Pro because of the flat edges. And yeah, I think there is some resemblance, but I think the Pixel looks significantly better. One other thing you'll notice is that the power button and the volume rocker are switched on the Pixel. So most other Android phones have it in the reverse order, which is something to get used to. Finally, this phone comes with an ultrasonic fingerprint sensor versus the optical fingerprint scanners in the last few models. So there's a bunch of advantages to this. It means that it's much faster, it's more accurate, it's more secure. But the biggest benefit for me is that you can install a tempered glass screen protector and the fingerprint sensor is going to work. And I've tried this with the tempered glass screen protector and it works flawlessly. On previous generations, you couldn't really use a tempered glass screen protector. I mean, you could, but it would drastically slow down the performance. And that was a deal breaker to me on previous Pixels. Now, here's my gripe with the Pixel. One thing you gotta know, specifically if you're in Canada, but I think this applies to other countries as well, is if you wanna get the base storage model of the phone, which is 128 gigs, you can only grab it in the Obsidian colorway. If you want any of the other colors like Porcelain, Hazel, and Rose Quartz, which is basically pink, you have to get it with a minimum of 256 gigabytes. If you want to get the base storage of 128 gigs, your only choice is Obsidian, which is a shame. And also, can we talk about the fact that in 2024, base storage is 128 gigs for $1,100 US? That's ridiculous. I know Apple does the same thing, but come on, Google. You need the market share. You can't be pulling this stuff. Okay, enough ranting. Now, you'll notice that the setup screen for both phones kind of matches the accent color of the phone, and that's a nice touch. And that's really what the Google Pixel experience is all about. It's tiny details that border on the obsessive that make the user experience feel well considered and pleasant. There's so many little haptics in the different parts of the user interface. It's just these small little things that make the phone feel more alive and interactive instead of just being another glass slab. Now, I already mentioned that the base storage is 128 gigs and you can go up as high as 1 terabyte. The phone also has 16 gigabytes of RAM and about 4 gigabytes of that is dedicated to AI tasks most of the time, which I'm going to get into more shortly. And that RAM is accompanied by Google's Tensor G4 chip. And I've had no issues with performance so far. Benchmark performance isn't the highest on the Tensor G4, but I'm going to say this loudly for everyone else. Benchmarks do not depict real-world performance. This phone flies, and the animations are well considered, yet they're also super fast. The phone also comes with a 5060 milliamp hour battery, and battery life in the last 48 hours has been very, very good. About on par with the S24 Ultra and a little bit less than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The display is a 120Hz LTPO OLED display, and it's super bright, super responsive. It has great colors, and it has a peak brightness of 3000 nits. I've had no issues in direct sunlight. Now, let's talk about some of the features that Google has highlighted for this device. So the first one is Pixel Studio. This is basically just an AI image generation tool. It works decently well depending on the complexity of your query, although I don't know how many people are going to use this very often outside of like creatives, or I think kids are going to love using this feature on their parents' phone. It's very similar to what Canva does today. Then there's AdMe. AdMe is pretty cool. Basically, if you're trying to take a picture with a group, but you don't have a tripod and a selfie doesn't work that well in that scenario, how it basically works is you have to take a picture and leave some space for yourself on the side. And then the camera app will then show an overlay, which then allows your friend to easily frame you in the shot when you stand or sit in the position that you're supposed to be in. And then Google's AI will then stitch those photos together into one super convincing picture. There's also a bunch of new magic editor features. One of them is autoframe. Autoframe basically allows you to reframe an image into a more visually appealing manner. So the AI is going to use generative fill to create parts of the image around the subject, and it does a surprisingly good job. It can also help level an image if it's bent. And then there's reimagine. It's kind of crazy how well this works. So you basically select part of an image or an area around a subject, and you give it a prompt, and it can change that image into something that's completely different. And the results are amazing when it works well, but other times it doesn't work as well, but this is something that'll just get better over time. Then there's a new screenshots app that basically captures the details within a screenshot and makes it searchable. So you can use natural language to search for a screenshot in the future, and then the AI will try to figure out for you what screenshot you're searching for. The other thing that's kind of neat is you can also organize your screenshots into what's called collections. It's kind of like a Pinterest board. What I don't understand is why this isn't just a feature in the Google Photos app and why it's a separate app, but if I had to guess, they're probably going to consolidate those apps in the future. Then there's Gemini, which is the star of the show. Based on the boot animation, and also the majority of the launch announcement was focused around Gemini rather than the Pixel phones. So now the phone has Gemini Live, which is super useful, and it's like interacting with a real person, kind of like what ChatGPT does. And for my testing, it works surprisingly well. One of the things you can do here is you can also interrupt it while you're speaking, like you're in a real conversation. Let's do a quick demo. I'm looking for a place in downtown where I can go jet skiing. Do you know any places?
While there aren't jet ski rentals right in downtown Toronto, there are a few options just a short drive away. You could check out Center Island, which is a short ferry ride away and offers jet ski rentals. Or you could head over to Mississauga or Oakville.
Sorry, Gemini. What is the pricing at Center Island like for the jet skiing?
It's hard to say for sure, since the price of jet ski rentals on Center Island can change. Your best bet is to check out a few different rental companies on the island. Some popular ones include Rent Our Ski, My Own Rental, and Bayside Water Sports. Are you looking for a rental company on Center Island or somewhere else?
On Center Island. So what are their average prices like?
It's honestly pretty tough to pin down an average price, since it can change depending on the time of year, day of the week, and even how long you want to rent the jet ski. That said, you can probably expect to pay anywhere from $150 to $250 an hour.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so what's important to note here is that Gemini Advanced is required to use Gemini Live. And the good news is that Pixel 9 buyers are going to get 1 year of Gemini Advanced for free. And that also includes 2 terabytes of Google storage. And you can also use Gemini across Gmail and other Google apps. Now, what's strange is that after 12 months, if you don't pay, do you lose Gemini Live? Like, that's the phone's unique value proposition here. It's the unique selling point of the phone. So after 12 months, you gotta start paying, and Gemini Advanced is not cheap. It's pretty expensive. Maybe they'll change that, but who knows? There's also a new weather app that's very detailed, and it gives you an AI weather report, which is kind of handy, to be honest. I kind of like it, but you have to go to the new Pixel weather app specifically. If out of habit you click the add a glance widget, it's still going to pull up the old Google weather app for some reason. And then there's audio emoji, which I think is so strange. It basically plays a sound related to the emoji you choose on the screen to the other person, and the person you're talking to doesn't have a Pixel. It can be very strange just receiving random sounds on your side. You can just continuously troll them with these random sounds with no limitations, and they'll have no idea why there's a random fart sound on a phone call. Here, for perspective, this is what it sounds like. So take a look at this. I have audio emoji here, and I have a bunch of emoji options. And if I click the fart sound, imagine arguing with someone and you just keep doing this. Actually sounds kind of fun, annoying somebody like that. I'll be doing a detailed comparison with the S24 Ultra to see which is the definitive better device. So if you're interested, subscribe so you don't miss that, and I'll see you next time.